They're afraid of information. They're afraid of you being educated. They're afraid of you thinking for yourself. They're afraid of you awakening, of coming out of your trance, of expressing self-determinism and being at cause of your environment. They're afraid of you coming back with your enthusiasm and drive and inspiration and motivation. They're afraid of you thinking for yourself. They want to control you 100%.
This is the Kevin Trudeau Show.
I am exposing the corruption in government and in major multinational corporations. We're telling you the things that they don't want you to know that will make your life better.
The key word is censorship. We know that various platforms routinely censor. They censor speakers, they censor content, they suppress the free flow of information. This is happening all across the internet. It's not being done by the big corporations like you think. It's actually being done by the government. In my particular case, the government categorically wants to stop me from exposing things that they don't want exposed. Now, for those of you who don't know, I am Kevin Trudeau, and you're not. Once upon a time, I was a member of an ultra-secret society called the Brotherhood. The Brotherhood is senior to the secret societies that aren't so secret. People have heard about them. Yale University's Skull and Bones, the Bilderberg Group, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, Bohemian Grove, and there are others. I've been talking about this for 20 years. I talk about them in all my books. I've talked about them when I was interviewed by Alex Jones, interviewed by various people that are now on podcasts. Back then it was radio shows. When I was on television, many of the interviews I did were cut and censored and actually taken. You can't even find them anymore. When I was on Fox News, when I was on the Today Show with Matt Lauer, when I was on the early morning show on CBS and ABC, CNN with Paul Assange, the interviews I did for the Wall Street Journal when I was on the front page of the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times and the Sydney Times, London Times, Los Angeles Times, Boston Globe, Boston Herald, Chicago Sun Times, Chicago Tribune, the list goes on. Many of these interviews were just censored. All the information was cut out. When I wrote the book, Natural Cures They Don't Want You to Know About, I exposed how there's an unholy alliance between the pharmaceutical industry, the food industry, and the government. And they're working together effectively to keep you sick. When I left the Brotherhood, all hell broke loose. And many senior people there were behind me, secretly, behind the scenes, and they told me that all hell is going to break loose. And it did. And I've been attacked by the federal government in the United States, some governments around the world as well. All because I sell books and informational publications exposing things that the government doesn't want exposed. And what doesn't the government want exposed? They don't want the pharmaceutical companies exposed, the food industry exposed, and they don't want, most importantly, quite frankly, they don't want exposed how the secret societies control all of the governments. There was just a show that was broadcast on YouTube talking about the Bilderberg Group, and it was a pretty good show. And it exposed how most of the politicians who were the prime ministers of European countries were nobodies. And then they came to a Bilderberg meeting, and then all of a sudden they became prime minister. Tony Blair became prime minister of the UK. Before that, Margaret Thatcher, Angela Merkel in Germany, and other major politicians around Europe. They're all Bilderberg-controlled people. In the United States, Barack Obama was a first-term senator whose biggest business was running a community center, I think in Chicago, or a community activist. And all of a sudden he went to a Bilderberg meeting and became president. Before that, there was a guy named Bill Clinton, governor of Arkansas, went to a Bilderberg meeting, got blessed, and became president. This is why the saying goes, presidents are not elected, they're selected. And this is why there is such vitriol against President Trump, because he was outside of that group. He was not selected at all. He's not part of that group, completely outside of it all, and actually won the election, the first election. And of course, there's arguments about whether or not he won the second election. The mainstream media is very clear that he lost, and we are not going to talk about that on this show. But I've exposed things that the government doesn't want exposed. The big difference between any of the shows you watch that describe Bohemian Grove or Skull and Bones or Trilateral Commission or Council on Foreign Relations or Bilderberg, even though many of those shows give really good information, they're sharing information that they know about, not that they know. None of those people have actually been at a Bilderberg meeting. I've been at several. None of them people have been at Yale University Skull and Bones. I've never been a member of Yale University Skull and Bones because I never went to Yale. I was never inducted, but I was one of the few people that were actually in the tomb, which is the headquarters of Skull and Bones at Yale University, and on Skull and Bones Island, because I was a senior member in the Brotherhood. I've been to Bohemian Grove. I've been to meetings at the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission. So I know, not just know about, how these organizations work. This is why I have been attacked so violently. In the last week, actually in the last few months, I've been broadcasting this show, and I've been saying that I'm coming out with books next year, a brand new natural cures book, a book called The Vitamin Scam, a book called The Organic Scam, both exposing how you're being ripped off by your vitamins that you're buying and how you're being ripped off by organics and how that works. I'm also coming out with a new book called Your Wish is Your Command, How to Manifest Your Desires. So those books are planned to come out next year. And in doing so, the government has gone crazy. They're doing things right now, trying to get me to shut down everything and stop all of my dissemination of information. Don't worry, because this is a good thing. Everything works together for good. That's a scriptural principle. It's actually, for those of you who follow the Christian tradition, that is in the Bible. It doesn't say everything is good. It says everything works for good for those that love and serve the Lord. In other words, if you're in alignment spiritually with the universe, everything will always work out for good, the ultimate good. Sometimes we don't understand how the ways and the methods are, but that's okay. Everything is working out perfectly. I can just tell you that. I can't tell you everything, but I can tell you that. We've put together a team of lawyers that are working right now very diligently to make sure that everything is going to work out perfectly, and it will, regardless of how it may seem in the short term. If you look at some of the cases that are going on right now in the courts, and I'll use President Trump, and whether or not you hate President Trump or if you like President Trump, it doesn't really matter. But here's a guy who, for the first time in history, a president, after they left office, has been charged with crimes, real crimes, both federally and in states. He's got all these cases against him. The government is spending hundreds of millions of dollars trying to prosecute President Trump. They call this the weaponization of the justice system. And it's true. It's been done all over the world. Anytime there's a political opponent, the political party uses the Justice Department to investigate, to charge with crimes the political opponents, to jail them, to discredit them. It's common, and it's done in the U.S. It's been done with congressmen, it's been done with senators, and now it's being done with the president. It's just the way the world works. We can't be shocked and think that we're going to change that. That's how it works. And then there are people out there, and there's a lot of people out there that are on the internet that have been saying things that have been violently attacked. Whether you like Julian Assange, whether you're not, look what happened to him. I mean, this guy had WikiLeaks, and as a journalist, got information. He didn't steal any information. He was provided information from somebody and published it. And he was attacked and vilified. And what did he publish? Oh, he published secret documents that were stolen by this guy, Snowden. Okay, that's fine. But why was the government so upset? Not that there were secrets disclosed that put national security at risk. The government was upset because there were secrets exposed that showed how evil the government actions were. The people, I should say, in the government. That they were lying to the American public about a whole host of things and committing crimes themselves. That's why the government got upset that Julian Assange published the information, because it exposed the crimes that the U.S. government was involved with. That's really what it came down to. And this goes on and on and on. But at the end of the day, you look at Trump, and he lost, he got convicted, he gets this fine and that fine, and a $600 million or $500 million fine that he has to pay. And he continues to fight, and then went to the Supreme Court, and now he wins this immunity case, which I talked about in this show many, many months ago. And he won that case. People are shocked and amazed. Look, everything works together for good. So things are going to work out for me. There's no issue. We're going to be broadcasting this show. Hopefully it won't be interrupted. But the government is trying and has been trying to discredit me. And for those who don't know the story, I'm going to give you the quick, short version of the story. My life was great. I was a member of the Brotherhood, making millions and millions of dollars every month. Rolls Royces, Ferraris, Bentleys, Mercedes, Porsches, mega mansions all around the world, private jets, private yachts, chefs, bodyguards, staying in the best suites in the world, custom-made clothes, millions of dollars worth of jewelry. I had it all. I was in the presence of prime ministers. I was in royalty and their homes, palaces around the world, presidents, generals, secretaries of state, major billionaires, all over the world. This was a good life. Traveled on the Concorde, I think, 20-something times. I was with Henry Kissinger one time on the Concorde. You saw pictures of me traveling with President Gorbachev. Many celebrities in Hollywood. I've been to their homes for dinner. Okay, it was a good life. And I worked with the Brotherhood, which worked with Bilderberg. And I saw how the inner workings of the world actually work, about how things are controlled and who controls them and why they're controlled and how politicians are controlled. And most importantly, how you are being lied to and misled. And around the world, in most countries, the quality of life and standard of living is diminishing, and you don't even realize it. In some countries, the standard of living and quality of life is going up. Wars rage. Why do they rage? I've been there in the meetings where they're saying, we're going to do this. The media is 100% controlled by the Bilderberg Group. We know this. Why? When you get the Bilderberg Group together, and for those of you who don't know anything about the Bilderberg Group, this is a group of the most powerful people on the planet. There's more billionaires there. There's more CEOs of major international corporations. There's the presidents of the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, presidents of countries, prime ministers of countries, secretaries of state. These are also many of them are members of the Trilateral Commission and the Council on Foreign Relations and Bohemian Grove. They're all interrelated, and Skull and Bones, of course. This group gets together. Many of the media CEOs of the major media networks around the world, the BBC, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, CNN, they're there. This should be front page news on every newspaper in the world, that never before in history are these powerful people meeting, so many of them at one time, to discuss secrets that they're not revealing. Why are they getting together? This is the biggest meeting on the planet ever, and it goes on every single year. But it's never mentioned in any newspaper, and it's never mentioned on any news broadcast or any radio show. Why? Journalists clearly know about it. You can see pictures of the meetings, of the people getting out of the Mercedes and the various limousines going into the meeting. You can see them all. There are independent people, Alex Jones, for example, and others, that go and film this stuff, and you can see it. How come this isn't mentioned in any news organization anywhere in the world? Because the news organizations are controlled by the people at Bilderberg, and they don't want this information out. If you don't believe that the news media is completely controlled and everything that's being presented is completely controlled, and some of you think, well, there are independent journalists. Okay, well, how come there's no independent journalists at ABC, NBC, BBC, or any of the news organizations around the world that are writing stories about the Bilderberg meeting? Because even if they do, it's not being broadcast. It's not being published in any news outlet. None of the mainstream media will talk about it, because the people that control the mainstream media are at the Bilderberg meeting, and they said, we're keeping this a secret. We're not mentioning it. It's as if it never existed. You're looking at it with your own eyes. You can see the pictures. You can see everybody there. There's no mystery. It's not like, oh, do aliens exist? You're looking at all these people coming out of their Mercedes going into the meeting. It's happening. You can count them all, the dozens of people. You can see all of them. You can see the CEO of all the major international petrochemical companies, the World Bank. You can see the presidents, the prime ministers, the members of royal families. You can see everybody there. It's obviously happening. And when you ask somebody, what about this? They go, what are you talking about? What meeting are you talking about? Well, here are the pictures. No, I have nothing to say about that. They just refuse to even acknowledge that they even went to the meeting, that a meeting even existed. So this is how everything is controlled, 100%. I want to just share something with you to explain how censorship is working. An article just came out which should scare everyone around the world, because America has something called the First Amendment, which is supposed to protect free speech. We are supposed to be able to express our opinions and ideas without the fear of the government challenging what we say, even if they disagree with it. And that's not happening today. The United States government and governments around the world, just happened in the UK too, and other governments. If somebody says something that the government disagrees with, this is like Nazi Germany. If you say something that the government disagrees with, that goes against the party line, that goes against what the government position is, they now will attack you for misinformation. What happened to free speech? Don't we have a right to share opinions? You may disagree with that opinion, but don't I have a right, and other people have a right to share opinions? There are people that have different opinions than me. They should have a right to express that. They should have a right to put that in a book and sell that. They should have a right to talk about it on the internet. Utah outlaws books in first statewide ban. State has ordered books by 13 authors to be removed from every public school classroom, and library. Books are now being banned in the United States of America. And what are they doing with these books? They're burning them. In the United States of America, just like in Nazi Germany, books are now not only being banned, but being burned. And this is what the government did to my books. When they took over, when I went to prison, they came in and they destroyed the warehouses I had with my books. They destroyed them. They're afraid of information. They're afraid of you being educated. They're afraid of you thinking for yourself. They're afraid of you awakening, of coming out of your trance, of expressing self-determinism and being a cause of your environment. They're afraid of you coming back with your enthusiasm and drive and inspiration and motivation. They're afraid of you thinking for yourself. They want to control you 100%. But no fear. There's nothing to fear. Just awaken. And when you awaken, everything in time will work out fine. There's an old saying that says, everything will be fine in the end. And if it's not fine, it just means it's not the end. So have no fear. Everything is working out fine. Hi, I'm Kevin Trudeau. This is everything they don't want you to know about to improve the quality of your life. Broadcasting every Monday and Wednesday, 2 days a week now. Monday and Wednesday at 1 o'clock Chicago time. Make sure you tune in and subscribe to the channel and share these shows with everyone you know.